Hello all, welcome to the mindful movement of yoga with Pure Yoga, myself Helen Rowe. We're going to be doing some Mandala flows, but very mindfully, very slow. And we're going to be including some sun salutations, but the very basic level of sun salutation, which are step backs and step forwards. So we are going to start with ourselves sitting on our feet in a knee position, shoulders over the hips. Take a close of the eyes, take a roll of the shoulders, bring them back down towards the hips, creating some space between those shoulders and the ears. Try to allow that belly to draw back, the rib and hips to tether, and not try and flare through those ribs at all as we move the arms to create some mobility through the shoulders. So as you close the eyes, take a scan of the body from the top of the head down to the fingertips, down to the toe tips. Just checking in with how your own personal body feels as you've arrived on the mat for the next minutes of practice of this Mandala flow. Take a couple of long, deep breaths in through the nose and long out breaths through the mouth. Just settling yourself into the present moment. These Mandala flows create a movement in 360-degree turns around the mat. So we see all four corners, all four edges. We see all directions in your room. So the key here is to be really switched on to the present moment, to listen to the cues, to make sure you know which leg you'll be moving at which time. So make sure you move the right leg at the right time. So if I'm stating right, I'll probably really emphasize the fact we're moving the right. On your in-breath, bring the hands up and over the head. Try not to flare through the ribs. Keep that rib and hip tethered, that tailbone tucked under, that belly drawn back. And just hold those hands up nice and high, taking those shoulders into flexion. Trying to squeeze the shoulder blades into the back pockets. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Breathing nice and deeply here. Bringing those shoulders down away from the ears, but growing up through the palms of the hands, reaching those fingertips up to the ceiling. Keeping that core engagement here. Then bringing your left hand down to the right knee, the right hand behind the body. And just take a rotation around to the right side of the room. The hips are being supported and stabilised onto those heels. Moving that body around, taking that rotation from the waist. Using those oblique muscles to make that turn of the upper torso. Keeping the lower torso stable. Your next breath in, bring yourself back to the centre and bring those hands back up towards the ceiling. The palms come together. And then take it to the opposite direction, bringing your right hand to your left knee, your left hand behind. Breathe in, elongate, breathe out, rotate. Still keeping that stabilised pelvis, the rotation from the waist, the turn of the shoulders. Breathing long breaths. Try not to hold the breath. If you wish to take that breath in and out through the nose, that more cleansing yogic breathing. Then your next breath in, bring yourself back to the centre, lifting those hands again back to the ceiling. Interlace the fingers. Keep grounded on both sit bones as you take a lateral flexion over to your right side. Keep pushing down into that left sit bone so it doesn't lift away from that left heel. Feeling the stretch of the skin over those rib cages down into those hips on the left side. Again, try not to let those shoulders lift up. Try and keep them retracted down. Breathing that breath in and out through the nose, that contraction on that right side waist. Come back to the centre. Neutralise the spine and then take those hands over to the left, the stretch down the right side of the body. Relax the shoulders, push away with the hands, contract that left side of the body and stretch that right. Feel the skin pulling over those rib cages on the right side and breathe that breath into that right side body. And come back to the centre and release the hands down onto the thighs. Bring the chin into the chest, push the centre of the spine towards the back of the room and roll that torso, taking it into some little bit of flexion. And then bring that chest forward, lift up the head, maybe arch the lower back slightly, but try and take that arch all the way up into that thoracic spine, the cervical spine. And create that space in the chest and those pectoral muscles at the front of the body. And again, take it into flexion. The centre of the spine pushes back. We roll through the shoulders. We dip through the head. We push the centre of the spine back. And then take it back into extension of the front body, extension of the spine. Squeeze the shoulders back to the hips. Try and draw the shoulder blades together. Lift up that chest, lift up that gaze. And then bring it back to that neutral space, tabletop position. Bring your right ear to your right shoulder and stretch the left side of the neck. Bring it back to centre, bring your left ear to your left shoulder and stretch down through that right side. Bring it back to the centre, take a turn of the head to the right, feeling that rotation on that upper part of the spine. Take that head back to centre, then take it to the left. Feel that rotation, pivoting on the top of the spine. Come back to the centre, tuck the chin into the chest. Roll the right ear towards the right shoulder, stretching through the back edge of the neck on the left side. Back to centre, and stretch that head over to the left, stretching the right side of the neck. Back to the centre. Make your way now onto all fours. Maybe you want to pat the tops of the feet on the mat just to let any tension go that you've built up into the tops of those feet by kneeling on those heels. Then stepping both feet back to a plank, holding that plank position for a few breaths. Soften the elbows, push into the hands, widen the fingers. Push into that index finger, thumb and little finger. Heels push back, crown comes forward. You squeeze the bum, the thighs, draw the belly back. Then start to paddle the feet as you bring yourself into your first downward facing dog. Paddling the feet as much as possible to allow those hamstrings to realise they're going to be going through a little bit of stretch and strengthening work. Have a nod, have a shake of those hips. Then if you're happy to bring those heels to stillness and the back of the legs are happy to be stretched, try and encourage those heels to the mat. Or if you need to micro-bend the knees to take the pressure off the lower back, just give those knees a little bend. Try and create space along the collarbones so we're not hugging those shoulders in. Breathing in and breathing out through that nose if you can. Then from this position, we're going to walk our feet towards the front of the mat, bringing those feet underneath the hips, and then allowing those knees to bend, the chest to sit over those thighs, take a hold of the elbows, let go of the head. And then give that head a nod, give that head a shake. Maybe make circles with the elbows in one direction, just to create some traction through those shoulder sockets. And then take that movement into the other way. Moving it around, feeling how it feels in those shoulders. Then release the arms to be heavy, slowly and mindfully curling up that spine, one vertebra at a time, to bring yourself to standing and roll the shoulders back, head stacks on top of those shoulders, on top of those hips, on top of those knees, on top of those ankles. Just have your feet slightly apart. Lift all 10 toes, then bring them down from the little toe through to the big toe. Push into the balls of the feet, the heel of the feet. Try not to rock out on any side edges. Feel that whole grounding of the sole of the foot. Turning the palms forward, just taking a moment here just to find some stability, some grounding. If you close the eyes, maybe you notice that body rocking a little, maybe from side to side, forward or backwards. You're never totally still that movement as the body's always making slight adjustments working with the equilibrium of the body to bring it to some form of stillness. Long breath in, long breath out. We're going to start with sun salutations. Your breath in, raise those hands up to the ceiling. Palms come together at the top. Then as you breathe out, bend the knees as much as you need to as you bring those hands down towards the floor. Let the head hang. Breath in, come up to a half lift, straighten the legs, place the hands on the shins. And then release the hands back down, bend the knees, step your right foot back, your left foot back. Drop the knees, bring the chest down towards the floor. Roll through, up, lift up the chest and untuck the toes, little baby cobra. Then release that chest back down, tuck under the toes. Bring the chest back towards those thighs. Push into the hands and feet as you lift the hips and squeeze those heels back. Just taking a moment in this downward facing dog position. You can choose to paddle the feet or bring those heels as close towards the mat as you can muster. Widen the collarbones, widen the fingers, push into the whole of that hand. Pushing into index finger, thumb, little finger. Feeling the balance in both the feet and the hands equal on both sides. Gaze in between the hands and step your right foot back to the front, your left foot to meet the right. Allow the body to fold over the legs, bend the knees as much as you need to. Then on your in-breath, bring the hands around and up towards the ceiling, bringing the hands together. And then bring the hands back to the chest, Samastitihi. Release the hands down by the sides of the body. And on your in-breath, raise those hands again back to the ceiling. On your out-breath, bend the knees, bring those chests over those thighs. Breath in, come up to a half lift. Straighten the legs, hands on shins. Breath out, release the hands down, bend the knees, step your left foot back, step your right foot back. And then drop down the knees, bring the elbows by the ribs as you release that chest to the floor. Roll through, up, lift up the chest, little baby cobra. Then release that chest back down, tuck under the toes. Bring those chests back towards those thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. Just taking a couple of breaths again in down dog, feeling that posterior chain stretch. Maybe close the eyes here, feel the sensation of where those feet and hands are landed. Notice whether the weight's equal in both sides. Then gaze in between your hands and this time step your left foot through. Step your right foot to meet the left and allow that body to fold over those legs. Let the head go. Your next in-breath, bring the hands around and back up towards the ceiling. Bring the palms together at the top. Bring the hands back to the chest, Samastitihi. Release the hands down by the sides of the body. Bend the knees, bring the hands to the floor, step back to a plank position. And then lift those hips back to down dog just for a breath. Nodding and shaking those heads. Coming down onto your knees, then bring your right knee to the heel of the right hand and take your left toes to the back of the mat and untuck. Take a hold of the right foot with the left hand and turn it underneath the body. Then bring that left hand back down to the floor and rock that left hip in and out towards the right sole of that right foot. Moving in and out, moving through those hips, just making it a little fluid. And then bringing those hips to stillness, just hold it in that space just for a couple of breaths. Easy breaths in, long breaths out. Maybe close those eyes. Switch into the sensation of the inside of the body. Taking out that stimulation of sight. Switching off one of the senses to come more internally. And then open the eyes, come out safely, tucking the back toes under, lift the back knee, step your right foot back to meet the left, lift the hips down dog. Then bring your right foot to the outside of the right hand, help it through if you need. And then just settle in that lizard pose just for a couple of breaths. So we're holding ourselves in lizard here. You can keep that back knee lifted or drop that back knee if that feels a little more comfortable to do so. Just making sure the hips drop as low as you can. If the back knee's lifted, try and straighten that leg out as much as you can by pushing that left heel back, squeezing the upper thigh to straighten that leg. Just holding it here just for one more breath. And then dropping down onto that left knee and curling those left toes. Heel toe that right foot back into the center. Raise the arms, come up to a lunge position with the knee down. Hold it there. Then bring those hands to the hips, tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee. Walk the hands around to the left side and then all the way to the back of the mat. And then bring down that right knee. Bring that left knee to meet the right. Step back to plank and lift the hips. Squeeze those heels back. So we're doing the same poses on that left leg now. So coming down onto the knees. Bring your left knee to the heel of the hand. Walk your right toes to the back of the mat. Take a hold of your left foot with your right hand and bring it internally underneath the body. Right hand comes back down and then rock those hips in a fluid motion, bringing that right hip to meet that left foot. And then settle into a place where the hips are neutral, both hips in line, chest is lifted. Relax the shoulders down, close the eyes, notice the sensation in the left hip maybe compared to that right hip. Easy breaths in and easy breaths out. And then to come out safely from this pose, tuck your back toes under, lift up your back knee, step your left foot back to meet the right, lift the hips back to a down dog. And then bringing that left foot to the outside of the left hand, help it through if you need to. Either stay off that back right knee, unsink the hips, or drop that right knee down if you wish. Keeping those hips nice and low. A little micro bend in the elbows so we don't hyperextend those joints. Pushing into the whole of the palms, the knuckles, into the tips of the fingers. Breathing nice, long, easy breaths here. Then release that right knee back down. Heel toe that left foot into the center. Raise the hands, find your lunge position. Hold it for a breath. Then bring those hands to the hips. Take that back knee away from the floor. And from this position, step your right foot to meet your left so we're facing the back of the mat. Roll the shoulders. Relax them down towards the hips. Widen the feet as wide as the mat. Toes off, heels slightly on. And then bend the knees, bringing yourself into your yogic squat. That may be in this position with the hips quite high. It may be that you can squeeze those hips underneath the torso. Use the elbows to push those knees out. Relax through the head, relax through the shoulders, and relax through that neck. Having that openness through those hips as you find that position low down, taking the hips into external rotation. Keep those breaths coming deeply and let all that breath out completely. Then bringing your hands to the floor and stepping your right foot close to your right hand, stepping your left foot to the back of the mat, finding that lizard pose again. Lowering the hips, maybe dropping the knee if you need to, whatever works for you right now. Just make sure those hips sink low to get into those hip flexors. Nice, easy breaths here. Then heel toe your right foot into the centre of the mat. Push into both feet as you raise the arms up to come to a high lunge position. Holding it in high lunge, not flaring the ribs, but relaxing the shoulders, drawing the lower belly up, tucking the tailbone down. And then turning all the way around back to the front of the mat. Bend into that left knee this time. Come onto the toes of that back foot. Bring the hands back to the hips. Step forward to the front of the mat. Take the feet mat width apart. Toes out, heels in. Palms come together at the chest. Start to sink low in those hips as you bring yourself down again into that Malasana Yogic Squat. Either the bum tucks under the torso, or maybe those bums are a little high if you struggle with getting the hips low. Just find your place. Find what feels best for you. Feeling that movement of that breath going deep into the body, expanding everything as you breathe that breath in, and contracting everything as you push that air back out. Using that nose if you can, that cleansing breath. Then release the hands to the floor. Walk the toes of the left foot closer to the left hand and step your right foot back to find that lizard place again. Hips low, maybe drop that back knee, whatever works for you. If the wrists are starting to get a little aggravated, maybe you want to come onto the fists, but do the same in both hands. Rather than being different in one to the other, it will make the alignment feel wrong. So if those wrists are starting to impinge a little bit, come onto those fists. If you're happy to keep the hands down, keep the hands flat. Then walk that left foot into the centre. If the back knee's dropped, maybe lift that back knee. Then raise the hands to find your high lunge position, facing back to the front of the mat. So we've done a full 360 turn back to the front. Bring the hands to the hips, step your right foot forward to meet the left. And this is the place where we're going to do those sun salutations again, so feet just slightly apart. Your breath in raises the hands to the ceiling, the palms come together at the top. And then as you breathe out, fold from the hips, bend the knees as much as you need to bring the hands to the floor. The breath in, we bring ourselves up to our half lift, the hands come onto the shins. And the breath out, we plant the hands back down, bend the knees, step your right foot back, your left foot back. Drop down with the knees. Start to bend at the elbows, sending them back to the ribs as you release the chest to the floor. Push into the hands and lift up the chest, shoulders squeeze back. Then release that chest back down, tuck under those toes. Bring those chests back towards those thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. Do your down dog for a couple of breaths, stretching the skin on the back of the body, that connective tissue, the fascia tissue. The tissue that gets notoriously tight, particularly in the morning. Then gaze in between the hands, bring your right foot forward, bring your left foot to meet and allow that body to fold over the legs. Your breath in, raise those hands all the way back up towards the ceiling and then bring the hands back to the chest, Samastitihi. Release the hands by the sides of the body. Your breath in, raise those hands to the ceiling. And on your breath out, fold from the hips, bend from the knees if you need to bring the hands to the floor. Let the head go. Breath in, find that half lift space, hands on shins, straight back, straight legs. Release the hands back down, bend the knees, this time step back with the left foot, then step back with the right foot. Plank position, and then drop the knees. Turn those creases of the elbows so they come back to the ribs as you release to the floor. Untuck the toes, push into the hands and lift up the chest. Then release that chest back down, tuck under those toes. Bring the chest back towards your thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. Holding it in down dog again for a couple of breaths, making sure the hands are shoulder width apart and the feet are hip width apart. Then gaze in between the hands, take a step forward with the left foot, take a step forward with the right foot, and allow that body to fold over the legs. Your breath in, bring the arms around and then up to the ceiling, bring the palms together at the top. Then bring the hands to the chest, Samastiti. Release the hands down by the sides of the body, close the eyes. Lift all 10 toes, bring them down from the little toe all the way through to the big toe. Feel that grounding into the floor, the ball of the foot, the heel of the foot. Not rocking out onto either edges, finding that center grounded space. Open the eyes, bend the knees, bend over those thighs, bring the hands to the floor, step back to a plank position and just hold it in plank just for a couple of breaths. So dropping down with your right knee and turn your right foot off the mat and turn on to that right side, turning the chest to the left. Reach forward with that left hand and hold it in that side variation of plank. If you're happy to lift that left leg away from the floor, using the outside strength of the hip to lift that leg high. Holding it here for a few breaths. Try not to lock out in the elbow on that right side. Use that right foot turn out as a little support for the body. Try not to let the hips drop back. Keep pushing them to the left side of the mat as you hold this pose. Left toes back to the shins and push that left heel away. One more breath here. Then bring that knee into the chest. Take a hold of the knee and then bring that left foot back to the front of the mat and turn the right foot back into the center. Walk the hands back towards that right leg. Squeeze those left toes back towards that left shin. Taking that half split facing the front of the room. Breathing in, elongate, breathe out. And just fold and flex maybe a little more over that left leg. The more you pull these toes back, the more you get into that Achilles and calves. The more you straighten that left leg, the more you get into that lower hamstring. Hold it here. Then start to walk back towards that left foot and sink the hips low. Get into that hip flexor on that right side. That left knee can come beyond the ankle, almost like it's stacking over those left toes. And then tuck those back toes under, lift the back knee, walk the hands back around the right side of the mat, taking yourself all the way back to the front of the mat. Bring the hands to the floor, step yourself back into that plank position. This time we're going to drop the left knee, turn the left foot off the mat, roll over onto your left side and reach that right hand up to the ceiling, then to the back of the room, so we're now facing the back of the mat. Then maybe lift that right leg by squeezing the outside of that right hip to use that muscle to lift into abduction, lifting it away from the center line. Keep the hips pushing to the right side of the mat. Keep reaching through the right fingertips. Keep pushing through the right heel, right toes back to the shins. Then take a bend into your right knee, squeeze it into the chest. Take a hold of that knee and bring that right foot back to the front of the mat and the left toes into the center of the mat. Walk the hands back towards that left knee and squeeze that right foot back towards that right shin. Finding that half split position. Hips just stacking over that left knee. Centralize the hips in the middle of the mat. Long easy breaths. Elongate on the inhale through the spine and then flex on the exhale over that right leg. Then start to walk those hands back towards that right foot and sink the hips. Allow that right knee to come beyond that right ankle, to sit over maybe those right toes. Feel that stretch down that left hip flexor. And then tucking those toes back under, lifting that back knee, stepping back to plank, lifting the hips and squeezing those heels back. Have a nod, have a shake of the head. Maybe bend those knees if the lower backs feel tight. Keep those hands shoulder width apart, the feet hip width apart. Then we're going to take ourselves all the way back around that right side of the mat when we take our next poses. So we'll bring ourselves back to the front. So your next breath in, we raise up with that left leg. We bring that knee into the chest. We drop down onto the right knee and bring your left foot through in between the hands. Tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee. Raise the arms up to a high lunge position. Finding high lunge, not flaring the ribs. Then bring the arms forward to shoulder height. Hook your left elbow under your right, either find the back of the hands or the palms or the shoulders. And then raise those elbows up. So they're just in the eye gaze. Keep that left knee bent, right leg straight. Wherever you found the arms, whether it's eagle arms or a variation of, just hold it there for a breath. Then start to fold over that left thigh, bringing the arms to the inside of that left knee. Again, if the hands are on the shoulders, just keep hold of the shoulders. If they're finding a bind, find that bind. Just allowing yourself to settle to the inside of that left thigh. Your next breath in, bring those shoulders back over those hips. And then turn and pivot all the way around to the front of the mat, coming onto the toes of the left foot and bending into that right knee. Raise those elbows. Remember, either eagle arms or shoulders. We're just stretching through that back body in between those shoulder blades. And then find that humble space, bringing that chest to the inside of that right leg. Elbows to the inside of that right knee. And just settle yourself here with whatever arm variation you have. Just thinking about encouraging that left hip forward, right hip back. Pushing nice and strongly into the whole of the right foot and the toes of the left foot. Your next breath in, raise those shoulders back over those hips. Release the hands to the hips. Step yourself back to the front of the mat. Both feet together, slightly apart. Both feet level, slightly apart. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body and we'll take those sun salutations from here. Your breath in, raise those hands to the ceiling. And on your breath out, fold over those legs, bend the knees as much as you need to. Your next breath in, half lift, hands on shins. And your breath out, release the hands to the floor, step your right foot back, step your left foot back. Drop down with the knees. Bend the elbows, release the body to the floor. Untuck the toes, push into the hands, lift up the chest. Then release that chest back down, tuck under the toes. The chest comes back towards those thighs. We push into the hands, we push into the feet, we lift up the hips, we squeeze those heels back. Find that happy place of down dog first. Then gazing in between the hands, step your right foot through, your left foot to meet your right, allow the body to fold, let the head go. Then on your in-breath, bring the hands around and up to the ceiling, palms come together. Breath out, bring the hands to the chest, Samastiti He. Release the hands by the sides of the body. Your next breath in, raise the hands to the ceiling, palms come together. On your breath out, fold over those legs, bend the knees, let the head drop. Breath in, straighten the legs, straighten the back, hands on shins, half lift. Release the hands then to the floor, bend the knees, step your left foot back, step your right foot back. Then drop down the knees, bring the creases of the elbows back to the ribs, release down to the floor. Untuck the toes, push into the hands, lift up the chest. Then release that chest back down, tuck under those toes, bring those chests back to the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips, squeeze those heels back. Have a little nod, have a little shake of the head, a little movement through those hips from side to side. And then bring those heels to stillness, maybe with bent knees, maybe encouraging the heels further back. Create space between the collarbones. Then gazing in between the hands, step your left foot through, step your right foot through, let the body fold over the legs. And on your in-breath, raise the hands all the way up to the ceiling, palms come together. Breath out, release the hands to the chest. Namaste. Samastitihi. Release the hands by the side of the body. So we've now done a full 360 to the left, a full 360 to the right. We're going to take those full 360s again, but with slightly different poses. Bring a bend into the knees, release the hands to the floor, step yourself back to a plank. And then lift the hips back to our down dog. Bring your right leg up towards the ceiling. And then bring that knee to the chest. Drop down onto that left knee. Bring your right foot through in between the hands. Tuck your back toes under, lift the back leg. Raise the hands up to the ceiling first. Create space in the spine. Then bring the hands behind you, interlace the fingers, push the hands down towards that left leg. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, heel toe the right foot out slightly to the side. Then breathe out, bringing yourself into the inside of that right leg. Maybe lifting the arms away in that humble warrior just for a breath. Then bring those hands back down towards the body. Lift that chest. Turn all the way around to the back of the mat. Come onto the toes of the right foot, bend the left knee. Squeeze those shoulder blades together again. Then on your out breath, fold into that left leg. Lifting those hands away if you wish, sending them up to the ceiling or not. Easy breaths here. And then release those hands down either side of that left foot. Step back to a plank. Lift the hips back to our downward facing dog. Have a nod, have a shake of the head. And we're going to start with that right foot again. Raise the right leg up to the ceiling. Bring that knee towards the chest. Come down onto that left knee. Bring your right foot through in between the hands. Untuck the back toes. Bring your left hand down, right hand to the shoulder. Turn and twist to the right. Then raise that right hand to the ceiling. Use that left hand as an anchor to twist. Easy breaths in, long breaths out. The reason I keep repeating about the breath is quite often you can hold the breath when things get a little more challenged, a little more fatigued. Then raise the shoulders over the hips, keeping the left hand forward and the right hand back. Rotation through that spine. One more breath in this position. Then release the hands down either side of that right foot. Tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee. Work your way around all the way back to the front of the mat. Drop down the right knee, untuck the right toes, right hand stays down, left hand to the shoulder, turn and twist to the left. Maybe raise that left hand to the ceiling. Keep stable by pushing into the mat. Keep rotated by using those oblique muscles to twist. Remember that right arm can help that anchored twist. Push strong into the mat here as you raise the shoulders over the hips, keeping your right hand forward, your left hand back. Breathing into this knee down twisted warrior. And then bring both hands down either side of that left foot. Tuck your back toes under, lift up your back knee. Step your left foot back to meet your right. And then lift the hips back to down dog. Take a nod and a shake of the head. A little roll through those shoulders. Come down onto your knees. We're just going to take short hold dolphins. So coming onto your forearms, interlace your fingers. Make sure your forearms, elbows are underneath those shoulders. Step back into a plank position again. Then lift the hips, push the gaze back to the toes. Then start to walk the feet slightly forward in towards those elbows, lifting the hips nice and high. On your out breath, drop the knees to hover off the mat. And your in breath to lift the hips back up and the heels push down. Out breath, release to a hover. In breath, lift and squeeze the heels back down. Out breath, hover. In breath, lift and squeeze the heels back down. Come back down onto the knees, come back up onto the hands. When you've found tabletop position, step both feet back to plank. Lift the hips, squeeze those heels back. So keeping your weight into your left hand, tap your left leg with your right hand. Bring the right hand back. Put the weight into the right hand, tap your right leg with your left hand. Bring your left hand back. One more on each side, right hand taps the left leg. Bring that hand back. Left hand taps the right leg. And bring that hand back. Come down onto the knees. Bring your left foot through. Tuck your back toes under. Lift the back knee. Work your way all the way around to the right side, turning all the way to the back of the mat. Drop that left knee down. Bring that right knee back to meet the left. Step back to a plank position. And lift the hips back to down dog. Just hold it in down dog before we take those dolphins on this back side. Drop down the knees, elbows to the floor, elbows under the shoulders, interlace the fingers. Step back into a plank in forearm and then lift the hips, gaze back to the toes. Walk the feet in towards the elbows a little closer. Hold it in dolphin. On your out breath, drop the knees to a hover. On your in breath, lift the hips, squeeze the heels back. On your out breath, drop the knees to a hover. In breath, lift and squeeze the heels back. One more time, bring to hover. Lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Then come back down onto the knees. Come back up onto the hands. Step both feet back to a plank. And then lift the hips back to down dog. Again, doing that pike move in this A-shaped position. Put your weight into your left hand, right hand taps the left leg. Bring the right hand back, left hand taps right leg. Left hand back, right hand left leg. Right hand back, left hand right leg. Left hand back. Hold it there for a breath. Then come down onto your knees. Untuck the toes. Step your left foot through, in between the hands. Tuck your back toes under, lift up your back knee. From this position, we're going to take pyramid pose. So straighten the front leg, keep the back leg straight. On your out breath, take a bend back into that left knee. And again, straighten up through that left leg, bring your right heel towards the floor. On your out breath, bend that left knee. One more time, in breath, straighten the front leg, right heel towards the mat. On your out breath, bend that left knee. Then walk the hands all the way around to the right side, then back to the front of the mat, right foot forward, left foot back. Bend into that right knee first. Then straighten that right leg, encourage the left heel down. Bend into your right knee, sink those hips. And then straighten that right leg, left heel down. One more time, bend into that right leg. And then straighten back out, left heel to the floor. Bend back into that right leg, hold it in lunge. Then step your left foot to meet the right, allow the body to fold over the thighs, let go of the head, hold the elbows. Give those elbows a little movement from side to side in circles, in figure eights. And then bringing them to stillness. Let them be heavy, the arms, and slowly go back up through that spine. One vertebra at a time and roll the shoulders back. Easy breath in and long breath out. So we're just going to do our last round of sun salutations facing the front of the mat. Nice and slowly does it. Breath in, raise the hands to the ceiling. Breath out, fold over the legs, bend the knees as much as you need to. Breath in, half lift, straighten the legs, hands on shins. Breath out, plant the hands, bend the knees, right foot steps back, then left to a plank. Drop down the knees, turn the creases of the elbows, release that chest to the floor. Untuck the toes, push into the hands, lift the chest. Release that chest back down, tuck under the toes, chest back to the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet and lift up the hips, squeeze those heels down, hold it in down dog for a couple of breaths. Widen through the collarbones, lift through the hips, push the chest back to those thighs. Gaze in between the hands, step your right foot through, step your left foot to meet, allow the chest to fold over the thighs, let the head hang. Then on your in-breath, bring those hands back up to the ceiling, bring the palms together at the top, bring the hands to the chest, Samastitihi. Release the hands by the sides of the body. One more salutation, lift the hands to the ceiling on the in-breath. On the out-breath, pivot from the hips, bend through the knees, bring the hands to the floor, soften the neck. Breath in, half lift, hands on shins, straighten back, straighten legs. Breath out, place the hands down, this time left foot back, then right foot back to meet plank. And drop down the knees, turn the creases of the elbows, bring those elbows in towards the body as you release. Untuck the toes, little baby cobra, or maybe you wish to come higher. And then release that chest back down, tuck under those toes. The chest comes back to the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet and lift up the hips, squeezing those heels back for our last downward facing dog of the class. Just make this moment special, make it meaningful, make it strong, make it flexible. Find that pliable and powerful in between. Then gaze in between the hands, step your left foot through, right foot to meet the left, allow the body to fold over the legs. Then on your in-breath, raise those hands back up to the ceiling, bring your palms together, bring the hands to the chest, Samastitihi. Breathe deeply. Close the eyes. Release the hands down by the sides of the body. Bend the knees, bring the seat to the floor, bums into the centre of the mat, heels to the front of the mat. Arms out wide and long, and slowly curl down one vertebra at a time, all the way to the floor, letting those shoulders and heads come down to the mat. Take a bend into both knees. Let the feet stay together in the centre, let the knees drop out to the side. Place the hands on the inside of the thighs just to rock that body a little from side to side. Let gravity take a hold of those legs to stretch the inside of that thigh on both sides. Then bring those knees back together. Hook those knees into the chest. Bring the elbows to the inside of the knees. Take a hold of the shins, the ankles or the outside of the feet. Try and have the heels stacking on top of the knees. The thighs to the outside of both rib cages. The knees in towards those armpits. And just maybe take a little rock here, tapping one knee on one side and the other to the other side. Using that core strength to control that movement from rocking too far over one way or the other. Just giving those hips a little compression, a little stretch in the lower back. And then bring those bodies to stillness. Bring the knees back into the chest, give them a squeeze. And then release the feet to the floor. Let the feet come long to the ends of the mat. Let the feet drop out to the sides. Palms of the hands face up, just away from the body. Or maybe take them wide into a T shape or into that 5-pointed star. Hands a little higher. Close the eyes. Soften the forehead and the jaw. Let the tongue drop away from the roof of the mouth and the lips gently part. And just take a few moments here in relaxation. Consolidating everything you've just done over the last however many minutes this practice has lasted for. Take a scan of the body, and if you're holding any tension anywhere, just give those muscles a squeeze, then let those muscles release. Bring it back to your own natural automatic breath. If you wish to use the mouth, whatever works for you right now, just give everything to the floor, the whole weight of the body into the mat. So you have a choice to either pause me here or bring yourself back around to seated. If you're coming with me, bring the hands back up and over the head. Bring those knees in towards you, into the chest. Make circles with the knees in one direction on the ceiling. And then make circles to the opposite way. And squeeze those knees back into the body. Take a hold of the creases of the knees. Rock up into a seated position. Swing those legs into either a cross-legged, legs out in front, or sitting on the feet. Bring the hands onto the top of the legs. Soft gaze to the floor. Your next breath in, bring the hands up and over the head. Bring the palms together at the top. Then bring the hands just in front of the eye gaze. Rub the palms together. Create some heat in those palms. And then place those palms over your eyes. Blink into the palms. Allow some light through the fingertips. Then on your out breath, bow the head. Bring the hands back to the chest. And that soft gaze down to the floor. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts. From my heart to yours. Namaste.